All right, good morning. We are officially starting the Transform Westside Summit. Good morning.
Woo!
So if you'd come on in and take a seat. We are broadcasting live from the gathering spot. I'm really glad to be hosting this morning on behalf of the Westside Future Fund. I'm John Ahmann, the President and CEO of the Westside Future Fund. And I'm here with my wonderful co-host, Ebony.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody here and at home. Appreciate y'all. My name is Ebony Ford. I am a very proud English Avenue resident. I am an even prouder Hollis Innovation Academy parent, where my son Jeremiah goes to school, back to school. Woo, woo, woo. Thank God. And I am all about the West Side, Best Side. It's great seeing y'all this morning.
All right, well, I always like to start the morning with a special shout out to our new visitors. So if this is the first time you've been in a Transform Westside Summit, would you raise your hand, please? All right, thank you for being here. Welcome. Yeah, let's give it to them. Here they are. So I'll tell you real quickly about our program. In just a moment, we're going to go to a devotion, and I'll be introducing our devotion speakers. And then after we do our devotion, there'll be a continuous influx of folks as we go through the morning. And we'll be doing self-introductions. We'll talk about that. When we get to our program speaker, and we're happy to have the mayor's senior housing advisor talking about all that we're doing, especially around Blight in the neighborhoods. And we'll be done by 9 o'clock. Yeah, and so I know I live in Vine City, you live in English Avenue, and one of the things we're really challenged with is all the vacant property.
Yes.
And a lot of it's owned by owners
Yes.
who are absentee or predatory in the sense that they only care about the profit, not about their community.
Absolutely.
And so I know that you've been following this blight tax.
I have. I definitely have. It's very exciting. And it's very disenchanting for them to think of it as just an investment, when there's actually people that live there. We're raising our kids there. And that's our home, and they're just thinking of it as some financial vehicle. So it is very disenchanting. So, of course, I have, as John mentioned, heard about the city of Atlanta implementing a new tax that aims at holding homeowners accountable for those vacant and neglected homes. This new tax will be used as a tool to help preserve an authentic Atlanta and put a stop to the disinvestment of neighborhoods. So, again, this sounds like a very, very great topic to discuss this morning. Very excited.
And to help raise funds, because, and actually, and I'm sure he'll say in his talk, tearing down and dealing with a blighted property is only one part of it. We want to develop that property into high-quality housing, especially affordable housing for the community. And we actually have to help raise funds for that work. We have our third annual Ride for the West Side. Yeah, September 28th. Our Ride for the West Side, so you can walk, bike, or run. We partnership with a longtime community organization, Quest, on our Ride for the West Side. Has anyone here signed up for a Ride for the West Side? Raise your hand if you've signed up. Oh man, that hurts. So please go sign up for a Ride for the West Side. It'll be a lot of fun. And we actually also have a heritage walk as well, if you want to learn more about the community. And to stay on top of all our activity with the Westside Future Fund, we have a monthly newsletter. So if you haven't subscribed, I'm looking at the screen to see if it goes up. But you can make sure you subscribe to our newsletter.
Absolutely. We also invite you to get connected with us via social media. We are on Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Facebook. If you are watching the summit on YouTube right now, please make sure that you do subscribe to our channel. If you are here in person, please do not forget to get your Home Depot and Goodwill raffle tickets. We'll draw the winning tickets at the end of the program.
All right, thank you. So folks that are here for the first time, next part is a really important part of our Transform Westside Summit. We have been doing the devotion since we began the Transform Westside Summits, and we take inspiration for our devotion from the story of Nehemiah in the Old Testament. And so the story of Nehemiah goes back to rebuild Jerusalem. The first part is kind of the physical rebuild, especially putting the walls to make the residents safe. But a lot of it is about the values that bring together communities. So we take inspiration from that as our devotion speaker, and we are also very pleased to always have devotion speakers from the community. I'll introduce you in just a moment. But to level set, you can see it up on the screen, but I'm also going to read out loud a statement that we give every time to level set on the devotion. It's become our tradition to begin our meetings with a positive, inspirational message from a member of our community. Recognizing that many in our community are driven by their spiritual faith to participate in the Westside revitalization effort, the time at the beginning of our meetings is an opportunity to share various inspirational reflections. While the speakers may articulate their personal faith, it is meant to be inclusive, inspiring, and meaningful, with the story of Nehemiah as our guide. And so really in the tradition of Nehemiah, someone who's working to rebuild their community, Monnica Taylor will be our devotion speaker this morning. She's an English Avenue resident. She has participated in our program Home on the West Side, that we prioritize folks who have a connection to the community for housing. She has 5 children, which we know keeps you busy. And I'm gonna say this right. She's a graduate of the Booker T. Washington High School.
Yes.
All right. And we know that you also, your dedication to community, have founded your own not-for-profit for children called Read 'em and Feed 'em, that you work on with your children. So we really appreciate you doing this devotion this morning. So give her a big round again as she comes on up.
Good morning. I'm excited to be here. So, my children and I have been a resident of English Avenue in October to be 5 years. And we love it, and every year it gets better, and the community is growing. You see the empty houses, the abandoned house today. 6 months, it's a family there, beautiful. So we love it. So do you all mind if we do a quick SEL Fist to 5 check-in? Because I'm also an SEL coach for elementary school. So 5 being, we're having a great day. We got a good night's rest. We're feeling wonderful. And Fist being like, I showed up, I'm here. So I'll go first, and then we all can do it together. So I'm like 4 heading to a 5 because I'm kind of nervous. So bear with me. And so if you all would close your eyes, breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. And let's show everyone where we are this morning with our 5 or our fist. Okay, wonderful. A lot of 5s and 4s. Awesome. So hopefully by the time you leave, we all could be at a 5. We can feed off each other and we all can hit that 5. So, while on the topic of checking in the book of Nehemiah, Nehemiah was the cupbearer to the king. And because of his trusted position and his close proximity to the king and his unrelenting prayers to God, the king noticed that Nehemiah was not acting his normal self and decided to check in on Nehemiah. Today we call this community. The overall message from the 14 prayers in the book of Nehemiah highlights the importance of reconciliation, prayer, perseverance, community, and God's unfailing love to those who obey him. We must work and pray together to continue moving our communities forward. We must do it sad and without a clear vision at times. And if at any time you are unsure what to pray for, I suggest to pray for favor. In closing, I feel as though prayer with hard work is the fuel that creates dreams. Nehemiah was a man of action. Nehemiah was a man of prayer. Nehemiah was a man of community. I challenge myself, as well as everyone across the world and in this very room, to continue to thrive, to be more like Nehemiah. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Monica. So after you've given the devotion, are you a 5? You a 4? All right. No, thank you. Thank you for leaning into the power of prayer and sharing your words with us this morning. So let's give it to her one more time for coming out this morning. Thank you. So for our next part of our program, and Ebony will lead the mic around.
Yes.
But we're going to do self-introductions for those of y'all that are here for the first time. A real important part of our Transform Westside Summits is to build community with each other. So we want to take the time to get to know each other by sharing our name, sharing kind of your, your affiliation, like where you're from, where you work, and then just stop right there. And we know that you can connect later after the summit, but we want to kind of move around the mic. That's what we ask. And if you have some announcement or other you want to get out there, we want to support that through our program to share it with us afterwards. We'll be happy to do that. But I'd really encourage you as we go around to listen to whose introduction and think about, hey, is that someone I might be able to help with something that I'm doing, or that maybe someone that can help me advance an idea I'm not trying to do. So we really value the connections that come out of this, which is why we take the time to do it every single Transform Westside Summit. So thank you.
Thank you, John. Are you ready? Okay.
Hey everyone, Josh Humphries, City of Atlanta Mayor's Office.
Hello, everyone. Monica Taylor. I am an AmeriCorps member and a social emotional learning coach for elementary school.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Vincicor. I work with Trees Atlanta.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Aminata, and I'm part of Partners in Change.
Hi, everybody. I'm Kathleen Bryant with Partners in Change. We provide free life coaching for 1 year for individuals pursuing new goals.
Hi, Neil Shorthouse, also with Partners in Change.
Good morning. My name is Jamar Jeffers, and I'm here also representing Partners in Change.
Good morning. My name is Alan Bell, and I'm with the Atlanta Resource Foundation.
Happy late birthday, too.
Hi, I'm Erin Jones with the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra.
And Sarah Grant, also with the ASO.
Good morning, I'm Ron Alston with Truist.
Happy Friday, David Edson with Cox Curran Associates.
Good morning, Susan Marks. I'm the Director for Human Rights Programs at the Carter Center.
Good morning, Daryl Ashur, Morris Brown College.
Good morning, everyone. Britt Gray, and I work with an organization called Coal Fire. We do ethical hacking.
Good morning, beautiful people. My name is Stephen Turner. I'm with 404 Partners Real Estate Development.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Marino Walker. I'm the project manager at Booker T. Washington High School.
Good morning, everyone. Trevor Gunter, English Avenue resident.
Matt Maxwell, Oaks ATL Community Development and English Avenue resident.
We got the block right here. I'm Sean. I'm an English Avenue resident as well. Also at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the Home Depot backyard.
Good morning, Gael Zayamana with the Carter Center Program Associate Human Rights Program.
Thank you. Did you go? Right? Did you go? You did? Did not? Okay. I thought she got skipped. Okay. Sorry about that. Hey, Daryl.
Hey, good morning. I'm Susan Rutherford. I work on neighborhood transformation in the mayor's office.
Oh, well, okay. This is always so confusing. I don't want to skip anybody. We'll start in the back this time. You okay?
I am. Good morning. My name is Cassandra Kirk. I am your Chief Magistrate Judge in Fulton County.
Lots to learn from you. Laura Heary, I'm with Brookwood Group, Architecture Planning, and Grove Park Foundation. Board.
Happy Falcons Friday, everybody. Good morning. My name is Tolton Pace, and I'm a Senior Program Officer for the Westside with the Arthur and Blank Family Foundation.
Good morning, everyone. Eamon Martin with Penrose LLC. We are working or partner with the Atlanta Housing on the redevelopment of former Herndon homes into Herndon Square.
Good morning, Susan Evans with Atlanta Housing.
Good morning, I'm Tracy Coleman. I am director at Girl Montessori School that's located in the Ashview Heights neighborhood.
Good morning, everybody. Stephen Cosby, City of Atlanta Department of City Planning.
Good morning, Garrett Owen with Homerick Berg.
Good morning, Claude Gallen with Boy Scouts of America, Atlanta Area Council.
Good morning, Alan Young, Native Atlanta and Affordable Home Builder and Developer.
Good morning, everybody. Austin Samuel with West Midtown Group, Student Housing and Home Park.
Good morning, Joseph Lockett, CEO, founder of ATL Movie Merch, where we're a platform for independent film and TV artists to sell merchandise to help with their production budget. And I'm an Oakland City, West End resident.
Good morning, Jerry Kieran, AP Global Scholars Network.
Good morning, John McGee, VI Capital Lending, Grove Park resident.
Good morning, TGIF. And my name is Anthony Bellows. I'm a legacy resident of the Westside, English Avenue area.
Good morning, my name is Sandra Bush, and I'm a legacy resident of the Booker T. Washington neighborhood.
Good morning, my name is Kiana Collins. I'm with House Tours of Atlanta and with Corporate Relocation Specialists.
Good morning, Marcellus Lewis, West End resident.
Good morning, everyone. Sheldon Hill, Foreclosure International. We believe in building communities and building families. We stop foreclosures and evictions nationwide.
Good morning. I'm Leela Gill with the Empire Board of Realtors and NID Housing Counseling Agency.
Good morning. I'm Archie Emerson. I am the president for the Empire Board of Realtors, and I am the broker owner of Dedicated Realty Incorporated and the owner of NID Housing Counseling Agency. I'm also the broker agent for moving those properties and making sure family find those homes, and I've been doing it since 1996, but right now I represent the Westside Future Fund.
Good morning, John Casey with HL Strategy.
Good morning, everyone. Matthew Coleman, VI Capital Lending Group.
Good morning, family. I'm Tillman Ward, President of Community Resources of Atlanta, and we continue to invite and welcome opportunities for partnership, scholarship, and ownership.
Good morning, everyone. Brandon Sherwood. I'm a CPA specializing in affordable housing, and I live in Cary Park.
I'm Bob Butler, Coldwell Banker Real Estate.
Good morning, Shelley McAllister, Corporate Event Planner.
Is there anyone who didn't get a chance to go? Who wants to go? No pressure. Did we miss anyone? Okay. Also, we'd like to thank, I think we have most of the Westside Future Fund team here along the perimeter. Want to thank them for being here and helping out as well, and also thank the production team. I forgot where I was going. There you go.
Mandy Eidson, Self-Help Credit Union. We're opening in 2 weeks in the West End across from the CVS, so come see us. Yeah.
I think that's it. Give yourselves a round of applause.
All right. Thanks for doing that. Hopefully you might have seen someone you're going to follow up with at the Transform Westside Summit. And it was great too. I know we have a lot of folks from the Westside neighborhoods today, and I know especially if you live in the Westside, I know it's in other parts of the city, but one of the issues that we really are challenged with is all the vacant properties and how to deal with those vacant properties, especially when they become dangerous because they're improperly cared for, improperly secured, and all the bad things that can happen from that. So we're really happy today and ask him to come on up, Josh Humphries, to talk more about all the great work of Mayor Dickens' administration. And Josh is the mayor's senior housing advisor. Yeah, give it up for him. He's here this morning. And we have been, working. We actually started working with Josh under previous mayors, been with the city, but really leading the mayor's efforts. And we're going to talk more about it. And we really appreciate. The one thing this mayor has done is employed some new tools that Josh is going to talk about, like the Blight tax. And so he and I are going to talk a little bit, and then we want to open it up because we know that there'll be a lot of questions from the audience to kind of learn more about not just what the city's doing around Blight, but also if you want to learn more about the mayor's strategies around affordable housing and all they're doing to kind of hit that 20,000 unit goal the mayor established when he got elected. Josh can certainly talk about that as well. But we wanted to first start with a recent news clip that talked a little bit about the Blight tax. We thought could help frame this discussion. So we're going to roll that and then move into our conversation.
Tonight at 6, we are digging deeper into the Blight tax Atlanta City Council just approved. So people who actually own a blighted home could face a property tax rate 25 times higher than the average.
11 Alive chief culture journalist Naima Abdullahi explains how it aims to crack down on corporations and their vacant properties while safeguarding seniors struggling to maintain their homes.
Miss Thelma Renault says wisdom comes with time.
I am at the age now where I just want peace.
Her peace of mind comes from knowing her English Avenue community on the west side will always be her home.
I'm born and raised here. And it has so many memories.
Even though her community has become revitalized, Miss Thelma says blighted homes are still visible on every block, and sometimes it's by design.
We really don't know who owns what.
Atlanta City Council member Byron Amos explains.
Now we're beginning to see blighted homes actually belong to corporations, actually belonging to people who have the means to do something about the property, but just decided not to.
And that's why he proposed the Blight tax. It would hit owners of unoccupied blighted homes with a property tax bill 25 times higher than the current city tax rate.
It has to be uninhabited.
The city of Forest Park has a similar ordinance, as do other major cities like San Francisco, Baltimore, Oakland, and Washington, D.C. John Ahmann is the CEO of the Westside Future Fund. The philanthropic nonprofit repurposes and redevelops blighted and abandoned homes in the West Side and turns them into affordable housing.
Why would a company or an owner purchase a blighted home and decide not to fix it up, decide to leave it unoccupied?
Primarily, I think the belief they will get a much higher price in the future. And so if you bought it for a relatively low price, then your incentive, because your cash out of pocket in any given year is not that high.
Miss Thelma's longtime home was renovated through the Westside Future Fund. As she watches her neighborhood become revitalized, she's encouraging community members to get involved.
You need to let the people know you are here. And if you don't say nothing, you don't get nothing.
Naima Abdullahi, 11 Alive News.
Well, according to the legislative document, the new law will go into effect January 1st. Owners of blighted homes have the rest of the year to meet expectations in order to avoid the tax increase next year.
All right. Well, one to start maybe framing, especially, and I know the data around English Avenue, Vine City, going back to 2016, where there was a study done where they go around and look at what is defined as a blighted structure. And there were over 400 blighted structures in just English Avenue, Vine City. The good news is a lot of progress has been made since then, because those are amongst the most blighted neighborhoods in the city. That's been reduced by about half, but that's still an awful lot of blighted structures. And I know this administration has come in, and Josh, maybe to first start, just how y'all thinking about it strategically to really go after, blighted property? Because I know, Mayor Dickens thought a lot about this when he was on the Atlanta City Council, so he came into office, I know, with a kind of a strong view, assembled a team to really go after it. So maybe just to start, kind of how y'all are first thinking about really getting over the top on these blighted properties across the city.
Sure. Well, first, thanks for having me here today. Good to get together and talk about this. I want to zoom back for a second before we get into blight, because the reason that we care about blighted structures in this administration is that we believe fundamentally that every Atlanta resident should have access to quality housing, safe housing, and amenity-rich neighborhoods. Like that's the baseline, right? Like we want to, no matter your income, for you to have access to a quality housing, and that housing to be close to fresh food access and quality schools and a place that's safe, that you feel safe in. And unfortunately, there are too many properties in a number of neighborhoods in the city, including in English Avenue and Vine City, that get in the way of helping us deliver on that promise, right? For a long time, and there's decades, and I don't have to tell this room, but decades of like structural decisions, intentional public policy decisions that led to creating that circumstance where blight is prevalent, where speculators can come in and benefit from that blight, and that has happened to the detriment of the residents that live in the neighborhood. And so that's why we care about this topic. What we've been doing for the last several months on this, and really for the last couple of years behind the scenes, is trying to take a more proactive approach to the work. Oftentimes, and for quite some time, City of Atlanta's code enforcement or really just general address of blight has been relatively reactive, right? We get complaints from that come in through 311, or residents complain, or there becomes an eyesore that becomes really evident, and so we respond to that complaint. And when you've got a neighborhood, like you said, I don't know what the number is today, you may know, but you said 400 blighted properties in 2016. You need more than a reactive approach to address that problem. Really, we think it's important that we have a structural approach to it that expands the toolbox, that adds new tools that we can pursue to root out that blight. But I think it's important to baseline at the front end that ownership matters, like who owns that property matters as we think about the different types of tools that we might deploy, right? If you've got a homeowner who just can't make the numbers work to fix their roof that wants to, or an heiress property where they're trying to figure things out, we want to step in and be helpful, right? We want to come together and expand resources so that residents and homeowners who want to stay in their home, who want to improve their home, have the opportunity to do so. So when that is the case, that is our preference. And that is absolutely a fundamental goal because we believe it's important for preserving wealth for those residents. And in heirs property situations, there's a lot of legal navigation that has to happen in those properties. And so when it comes to those, like expanding estate planning work on the front end and providing a legal support for heirs properties on the back end is important. One thing we did late last year is launched the Housing Help Center. And that was launched really as a response to the fractured ecosystem of support that exists throughout the city, right? There are a lot of nonprofits, organizations, for-profit, and government agencies that are trying to do good work, and they have a lot of programs, but accessing those programs was very difficult, and including programs like pro bono legal support to clear up title on an heiress property. And so we created the Housing Help Center, and we're rolling out programs connecting residents to those resources. So that is a big piece of this, and when there are properties that are not owned by speculators, that is the route that we're pursuing. But then there are the bad actors, right? And that's what this blight tax is about. And for the bad actors, we want to send a very clear message. Like, you are not welcome in the city if you are going to perpetuate negative externalities in our neighborhoods. The blight tax is designed to really change the economics of a situation, right? So if you're paying, if you're sitting on a property, let's say that property right now is $1,000 a year is your property taxes on it. What the blight tax does is we put together a case, this goes to the courts, we make a case to the courts why this property meets the blight conditions, and the courts can rule to increase the city portion of the property tax by 25x. City portion of the property tax is only about 25%, so it's not a full 25x, but it is a substantial increase in the total taxes. And our goal with that is that if you do have a speculator, like was mentioned earlier, that's just sitting and waiting on a payday, now they're sitting on a much more expensive proposition because those taxes go up until the property is improved. Now, when the property is improved, they revert back to the appraised value and in the normal assessment that any other property would go under. But that's just really one of a lot of tools that we're doing. I mean, so I'm happy to talk more on other ones or focus on the blight tax. You tell me. Yeah.
Well, one thing just to follow up a little bit about how the tax implementation work, because there may be folks in the audience who own a piece of property, they're keeping it up, they're trying to put together the financing, they're worried that this blight tax is going to come after them, but that's not really your intent, because you have some discretion in terms of how you implement this. Talk a little bit about how y'all are going to think about the implementation of the blight tax in terms of distinguishing between good and bad actors.
To be clear, if you want to improve your property and you're struggling, to John's point, with putting the numbers together to make that make sense, we are open for business in that sense, right? We want to be partners in revitalizing neighborhoods, bringing properties back into productive use, and we understand that that's financially complicated, it's expensive sometimes, and so we have a number of programs, particularly in the Westside Future Fund footprint, because there's something called the Westside TAD, or Tax Allocation District, that allows additional resources that can be deployed in this neighborhood to help with just what you're talking about. So if you're like, please come find me. If you can't find me, John knows how to get a hold of me, but we'd love to help however we can on that front. The way that we're thinking about the rollout of this, right? Like there's, for us, it's really trying to look at areas where, the blighted properties are having the most significant impact in holding the neighborhood back. So are there key properties in the area that are having a disproportionate impact on those areas? And so that's really where the initial focus is for us when it comes to the blight tax.
So, and you might say, so if folks have a piece of property, they're trying to develop it, or they know someone's trying to develop it, you said to come find you. And I know one of the things that y'all are working on is to put together new financing opportunities. So if folks have that piece of property, how the city could assist them, give them low-cost loans until they earn enough to pay back that loan. Do you want to say any more about how y'all thinking about that program?
Yeah, so I mean there are a number of different programs, and every property is unique and kind of what the needs are on it. So if what I've described doesn't fit what you're looking to do, doesn't mean that there's not a fit there. One of the programs is that we've been talking about is something we're calling rehab rent return. And this really is a focus on heirs property issues, right? Where you've got an heirs property, no one necessarily lives in the property right now, but it's owned, let's say, by like 5 siblings who inherited the property. Those siblings, if they don't have the capital to renovate the property, it could just sit for a really long time, even if you do clear property title on it. And so one program that we're building right now, it would say, hey, we'll come in, we would contribute the capital cost to renovate the property and help you get clean title on it. And then the city's let's just say, for instance, the city put in $200,000 to make that happen. The property then would be rented out for a number of years. Returns would come back early on to pay off the city's investment in that. And then after that, the property would go back to the heirs that inherited the property. So that the wealth that they inherited does not get lost in that. So it allows us to get back in productive use, allows us to put some housing back in production, but then ensures that the owners of that property can benefit from it long term.
No, thank you. And also talk a little bit about demolishing dangerous properties. Because you see a vacant property and a vacant block, it unfortunately becomes a magnet for criminal activity. Sure. People can get hurt and die. Lead to the death. And you want to say, well, we want to demolish that as quickly as possible. But I know too, and on the one hand, it looks, you think, simple just to demolish it, but actually for the city, because of some of the policy constraints you'll have to go through to actually demolish a property takes a fair amount of push by the city, given the property right protections in our state. But maybe talk a little bit about, because why that's more complicated than it seems for the city to really demolish a property, and how y'all are trying to step up your activity around that.
You're asking about like city-initiated demolitions,
yes,
or privately initiated? There's, I think, high level, like, one of the things that we think a lot about when we're talking about demolition, and Lee and I were talking about this right before we started earlier, is demolition is not the end game, right? It solves part A of the problem, but it's not end game. End game is we want properties back in productive use, whether you're rehabbing a property or rebuilding something new. And so when we think about this work, and when we talk with Westside Future Fund and others who are trying to do this work, whether they own the property or someone else does, I think it's really important that we think about the full cycle of a property and not just the first part. I think too often in the past, the city has been focused on the first part. Our programs that we had in place focused on the first part. It allowed us to demolish properties. But then it left a lot of vacancy in the neighborhood where you've got a property that cost the city a decent amount to tear down. But for a number of reasons, the way that the system was set up, it made it really hard to ever get that into property owners' hands who could redevelop it and bring it back online. And so a lot of what our focus on is right now as we're thinking about this is how do we get the ones that are vacant that the city tore down already, because there are quite a number of those in English Avenue and Vine City, back into productive use, right? That means that we've got to put legal fees and stuff in to make sure that the title is clear, that we get it transferred into the right property owner's hands. There's a lot of like nuance to that, but that had been a bit of an afterthought, honestly, for a long time. And so when Mayor Dickens came in office, it was like, hey, we want to make sure we don't sit on these properties, right? And so we have expedited our work to get those through the system and out the other side. And to your point you raised earlier in the event, that is such a critical piece, and oftentimes we there becomes a funding gap on the back end of it, right? So you can get the property down, but then to rebuild it, there's, let's say there's a $50,000, $75,000, $100,000 gap in order to deliver that. And so I think both on the city side and the philanthropic side, that is like a lot of the focus right now. I think we've got the tools in place to get it to all the way up to let's pull permits and build. And so getting it to that and then get across the finish line is really what we're focused on right now, so that we can really bring the quality housing stock to the neighborhood that we all know we need.
So if someone sees a vacant blighted structure, they're calling city code enforcement. How much enforcement in terms of the city being able to demolish a property, put it in REM? Can you talk a little bit about how that process works? So you have a vacant owner, they're not keeping up the property, it's dangerous. Yeah. The steps the city has to go through and get that demolished and back into productive use.
Sure. I mean, so I don't think we start with demolition in mind, right? We start with kind of what is it going to take to get this property back into productive use. Some properties can be saved. It's on a spectrum for that work. But becoming aware of the problem, still, as much as we want to be proactive, it still relies in a certain extent on a reactive system, right? Calling in to 311 and saying, hey, there's this issue. That is helpful for us because it serves as data inputs on where their problems might be. So I encourage anybody in this room and others, like if there is a property that you think meets blight in your mind, everybody has a different definition of that in their mind, but if you think it meets that or there's a problem that's holding back the neighborhood, please call in, report on that. We have increased staffing in our code enforcement team so that they can go out and pursue that, put citations on it, and that really starts a somewhat protracted process that you have to go through of citing, giving the property owner opportunities to remedy that before, and go through a number of measures on that before you get to demolition on a property. Because again, our goal is just to have the property owner remediate it before the city has to step in. I would also say too, like, one thing that we're working, we were talking about vacant properties right now, but the way that we think about it, the city is that you've got vacant and blighted properties that have to be addressed, and we're talking a little bit about that. But there's also occupied housing, right, that is substandard. And when the mayor took office, really that's where we started this work. We've moved into kind of vacant, blighted properties, but there are too many residents in the city of Atlanta that live in substandard housing. Really, too many residents in this country that live in substandard housing. And for too long, we've allowed that to be a profitable business model for too many landlords. We are dead set on changing that reputation in Atlanta. If you're familiar with Forest Cove, we started with Forest Cove. This is a property in Thomasville Heights. I would say it's the worst housing conditions I've ever seen in the country. And that property is in process right now of being demolished, but mayor stepped in 2 weeks after taking office, maybe a little bit less than that, went down and toured it and said, no one should live like this in the city. And the city put the money up to relocate those residents to better housing. And right now we're in the process in Thomasville Heights on some publicly owned land next door, phase 1 of redevelopment. So we'll begin construction just in the next few months on new housing back in that neighborhood, with giving those residents an opportunity to come back within just a couple of years of having to move from Forest Cove. That kicked off for us a larger initiative we call Safe and Secure Housing that is really going after landlords with the full enforcement powers that we have to say, hey, like, if you have substandard housing, either improve it or you should get out of town and get somebody else to operate this property, because we will not tolerate that. So that is another big piece of this for us, right? Whether it's single family, multifamily, operating substandard housing, we do not think is a viable option in the city. And so we understand in a lot of ways that this type of substandard housing and blighted properties really negatively impact neighborhood, and we want to make sure the residents have access to the quality housing they need.
No, absolutely. We appreciate our partnership, and one of the things we've been able to, thanks to a lot of, especially, corporate support, the Westside Future Fund has a, impact fund that provides us, we have to at some point pay the money back, but we don't have to pay any interest on the money. We can use that money to go acquire and help develop property. And our real estate team, Lee Harrop, has led our acquisition efforts. But we've purchased over, because one way we try to reduce the blight working with the city is if the person's willing to sell it, to buy it.
Yeah.
And even, as bad as the property may be in, you just can't take it from them. But if they are willing to sell it, I think we've purchased over 200 vacant, blighted single-family properties plus multifamily. And then I know, so we purchase it. If we can demolish it, we demolish it. There's a cost to that. And then we want to, develop it, as fast as we can. But if you want to develop it as affordable housing, then it's putting the financing capital stack together to be able to offer that affordably. And we've worked with the Dickens administration to target three, really, one area we're very focused is the James P. Brawley corridor in English Avenue. So 10, 12 years ago, that corridor was in a very, really challenged position. If you go drive it down today, it is more redeveloped than undeveloped, but there's still more to go. And one thing we've been working on with the city is to identify every single property that is vacant and not moving in, who the owner is, and is that an owner that really needs some help to get their property developed back to your legacy heirs, or is that an absentee owner that just needs to have more aggressive enforcement action? So one of the things we hope to really tease out with that James P. Brawley corridor is the the examples of the different tools y'all are using to bring blighted vacant properties back to life.
Yeah, I think that I really appreciate the Brawley corridor focus work, because when you're dealing with the number of blighted properties you're talking about, being able to focus on a handful of blocks to start with, I think it allows to prove out how this works, but also to do it at a small enough scale, and then expand from there, and really create what I think could be, it is the backbone of that neighborhood. One thing I'll mention about Brawley corridor and this work broadly, I think we're talking primarily about residential blight. But commercial blight's a big piece of all of this, right? And I think it's true on that corridor, right? Like a lot of commercial properties, and oftentimes, we think commercial properties play a even more significant role in an outsized role on the experience, right? They serve as gateways. Oftentimes, if you're trying to the neighborhood, you're passing a commercial property before you get into the residential piece. And so, when those commercial properties are blighted, it really does, I think, have a bigger impact on the reputation and the felt experience of coming to a neighborhood. So as we think about this work, really, we're thinking beyond just the residential blight that does exist, but also the commercial blight and how we can pursue improvements there as well.
Yeah, no, and I know one of the other areas that we're focused, I think, as an example of that is Rodney Cook Park in Vine City. So, that's over a $40 million public-private investment, and there's a lot of vacant commercial property, around that park that really, would make the park a better experience to have that vacant property, developed in some type of mixed-use way. So I know that's another focus of y'all's efforts is, especially around public assets like parks, is how to get that land back into productive use.
Yeah, park fronting land should be the pride of the community, right?
Right.
And too much of it right now is in property owners' hands that are content to let it sit vacant. And so we think that tools like the blight tax can really help move that along, and just facilitate either a change of ownership or a change of attitude from the current owner.
And before, and open it up to a question in the audience in just a moment. But one, just to talk about the overall, because back to your point, your goal with blighted vacant properties is to get them into high quality housing. And I know when the mayor took office, he had an extremely ambitious goal of 20,000 affordable, not just housing units, but affordable housing units. You want to talk about y'all's progress on your?
Sure, I'd love to talk about housing.
Yeah.
So when the mayor took office in January 2022, set a goal to build or preserve 20,000 units of affordable housing. So we are 31 months into that. We have delivered over 5,700 units of affordable housing since the beginning of 2022. And I say delivered, like online, people are living in, or lease up has begun on those, and have another 4,000 and change that are under construction today, with a big pipeline behind that we think are going to close over the next few months and into next year. So we were well on our way toward our 20,000 unit goal. If you're doing math, we're just under 10,000 total that are either completed or under construction in the first 2.5 years of an 8-year goal. So really excited about that work. I also mentioned within that nearly 75% of those units are for residents at or below 60% of the median income. And so these are deeply affordable units that we're building, and they are throughout the city, and there's a geographically spread. We've got a tracker, and I can share this with you if it's useful to share it with this group. An interactive tracker, you can see where these units are and how they are progressing along toward completion all throughout the city.
No, thank you. So, no, we'll go ahead and open it up to audience questions. So if you have a question for Josh, or I guess me too, but if you'd raise your hand, I see that at least start speaking. I saw your hand go up, so we'll go for you first. But if you'd stand, they'll bring you a mic, and if you'd stand up when, we'll start over here at. When.
Remarkable. So congratulations.
Thank you.
With that incredible number, the point you made earlier that a real affordable lifestyle isn't just housing, it's the mix of being able to get to school easily, services, church, work. So when you rezone, or when we have had rezoned properties that were commercial that can now be mixed, let's say Hollowell, Grove Park Foundation, and yet moving forward on a project is very complicated. The federal grant system, getting a building demo permit and so forth. Talk to us about how you see opportunities to advance the mix where you have side by side live and work, because the tools for small business don't exist as much as for housing.
Sure. So alongside the mayor's 20,000 unit goal, we also launched, and Susan's here today, and she's going to help and lead a lot of this work, a neighborhood strategy, really, with it focused on 7 core areas of the city, and that's broken up along the Hollowell corridor, out from north side all the way to the river, the Campbellton corridor from Fort Mac down to Greenbrier, Thomasville Heights, and then downtown, which is its own ball of wax, so it gets treated a little bit differently. But really thinking about these types of questions, right? How do we not just build housing, but build housing in neighborhoods that work for the residents that live there? Because one thing that I like, and I sit in these affordable housing meetings sometimes or conferences, and there's this talk about numbers and units, right? And we got a big number we're trying to hit. So I think the impulse sometimes is just let's rack up the unit count, right? And I lost it. Oh, there we go. Rack up the unit count. Agnostic to where that is and the quality of life of the residents that live there, right? And I think that's a mistake that gets made too often around this country. And we need to build a lot of housing. We need to build it everywhere, but we need to be thoughtful about where affordable housing goes so the residents that live there can have a high quality of life. And so that's a lot of the work that we're doing right now, like really trying to think intentionally about the question that you raised about, where are the job centers? What access do the residents have within the existing transportation, potential future expansion of the transportation system? Where are they going to go get their groceries? Where are they going to get, if they're transit dependent, how do they get around the city? Does this location work for them? I mean, if it doesn't, what do we need to do in this neighborhood in addition to housing in order to make that happen, right? That's why earlier this year, the mayor announced a grocery initiative and allocated $6 million from the city's budget, which is the first time and the most amount that I know of, at least in recent history, maybe since the city built the Atlanta Municipal Market in 1923, that we've been that serious about creating fresh food access. And that's really a result of having a mayor and an administration that's very focused on creating quality neighborhoods. It's not just about creating units, but knowing that there are all these other pieces that have to come together in order to make that successful. So English Avenue and Vine City are part of those target areas. There are more areas of the city that need that support, but we also, we know that we've got to walk before we run, right? And so we're starting here and then think there's a chance to expand beyond that.
Next question.
Good morning, John and Mr. Humphries. Thank you for being here. I have a question. Is there any conversation or some type of program to help get the permitting process to be a little faster or simpler? Because that sometimes becomes a barrier to people like me who do affordable housing to want to participate.
So the permitting process has not always been very good. I will be the first to admit that. I get the phone calls when it's not going well. We launched a whole new team inside the planning department. And Ahmann should speak on it and tell me if I'm out of pocket about the progress that's been made. But when we launched this group, we hired an additional staff, some of them working under Stephen Cosby in the Office of Housing and Community Development, that said, hey, if you're building affordable housing, we're going to fast track you. You're going to have the best and fastest permitting in the city. And we, at the same time, started revamping the permitting system just for every other type of permit that comes through. And so that's an iterative process, right? There's a lot of nuance and complexity on how permitting works. But I think we've made strides on that. At least, I'll let Ahmann weigh in on that. It looks like he's raising his hand.
In on the actual, okay.
Yeah, I'm asking him to verify if I'm lying or not.
Thank you. Actually, no, I'd like to definitely say the permitting process, as we all know, has been a challenge and continues to be. But in the last, and I've been developing in the city of Atlanta since 2005, and it has gotten considerably better. To give you an example, so we closed and are under construction here at Herndon with our phase 2, which will be 201 units. I know it's a drop in the bucket, but it's on getting us closer to 20,000 of mixed income apartments. And to tell you how the process has improved, our third phase at Herndon, which will be 178 units of mixed income housing, we are on schedule to close that in November of this year. So less than a year after closing phase 2. And that's unheard of in my 19 years. And that's mainly due to Josh, the mayor's leadership, Josh, and the individuals in the permit office. So, and also one other thing, one other point to make, we talked about creating housing next to services and jobs, which is really great about Herndon Square. I mean, it's literally right next door to Georgia Tech and Trammell Crow's Science Square, which I think is going to create about 5,000 new jobs that literally our residents will be able to walk to. The city and Invest Atlanta has helped us create new infrastructure, street grid. So if you go out there, you can see it's a walkable community now. So really it is an excellent example, I think, of affordable housing next to amenities, job centers, and I'd say probably the biggest job center downtown Atlanta, close proximity. So,
all right.
And thank you, Josh, for all that you do.
Hey, great work. Thanks for presenting. And I may have missed this. So the money or the tax that is taken from those that don't renovate the property, how is that money? What happens with that tax money?
So I'll tell you what we're anticipating, because we haven't done this yet, so we don't know exactly what's going to happen or not. But we're anticipating that before the tax even gets paid, that most properties will change hands because In the case that it does not happen, that money would flow into the city as part of the city's general tax that comes in.
Thank you. So the question I have, like, it sounds like it's on the residents to report the blight. They're kind of two-part. Does the city have a process to kind of identify the blight and put the tax on them? And then also, how long does that process take for the city to actually step in to do their thing?
So I'd say that in a lot of ways the current system is set up reactive, right? That puts the onus on residents to report that. The one way that we're trying to augment that is really working in these 7 neighborhoods with partners like APD Urban that Westside Future Fund brought on board. It's a planning consultant that went and did a windshield survey. They drove the neighborhood and put together information about blight. So that type of information is really helpful for us to be able to, because then we have more information than just 311 calls about where blight is. And really more, what's most helpful about those types of reports is that we know where it's concentrated, right? Okay, hey, these 3 blocks is worse than anywhere else in the neighborhood. Versus if you're getting 311 calls, it might just be scattershot and it's incomplete data. So that we're working with partners on the ground on that type of resourcing that'll help us better target that work. The process, it varies timeline-wise, right, depending on how responsive the property owner is or is not.
Good morning. This Adams from Barton City. First of all, let me say thanks for attempting to do the blightedness and also to get rid of the neighborhood. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the mayor is the chairman of the Investor Atlanta and ADA. Now, you all don't see what we see when we live in the neighborhood. Some of the properties that you're speaking of is owned by the city of Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken. So we as a community want to hold you all just as accountable as you hold anyone else. Take care of your property. My main concern question is the land bank, land authority. You all have given them some land across the street from a legacy resident, 568 Foundry Street. They're trying to build a 16 feet wide house, 2-story. I think it's 100 feet deep, next to apartment complex. Our street is already impacted because it's a narrow street of the parking. So I have been concerned, because it was a passion. I've been living in that neighborhood 20 plus years. And where I live now is one of the best places I ever lived since I lived in Vine City, and that is the legacy of Vine City that hosts 105 seniors, real seniors, but most of them real seniors. But my concern is we can't visualize a house right across the street from our apartment driveway. There is a telegram post with a transformer on it, and they talk about off-street parking to put a driveway. So I have been calling ADA, I have been calling Invest Atlanta, I have been calling Dunn, I have been calling, what's the president, CEO? The other one, the real
Eloise.
Eloise. And no one has returned my phone call in 2 weeks.
Well, you got me here now, so.
I'm going to show you what I have on my phone.
Sure.
Then I want you to go see for yourself.
Okay.
I can tell you, but when you see it, it's no way impossible. A house should be put right there by the land trust. And if you want to give someone some land, give someone some land that can do something with it, where we all as a community will benefit, enjoy, and love. Martin Luther King said, a community would be proud to call home.
So I'll connect with me afterwards. I want to get the details on exactly what you're talking about, but I will look into it and figure out what's going on there.
Yeah, thank you. My quick question is, does the city have a plan for building the remaining 10,000 units ahead of the FIFA World Cup?
So the 20,000 unit goal is by the end of 2029. Typically, we anticipate about a 2-year runway from the time construction starts till it delivers. So a big chunk of the 4,000, if not all of that, will be delivered, we expect. And then we got a bunch of stuff Ahmann was talking about one, we got a whole bunch of things that'll be closing in the next few months. A lot of that work, really anything that closes between now and kind of into this year is probably the last window for stuff that'll be completed by the World Cup. After that, it's likely going to be afterwards. We are doing some work in modular housing that's off-site construction and then delivered on site. That's much faster turnaround, and a lot of that's focused on the unsheltered population of the city. Every single night that a resident sleeps on the street is a dangerous and precarious night, and so we're doing a lot of work on that front with the goal of adding an additional 500 units between now and the end of next year on that front as well.
Okay, probably, I don't have a watch, but maybe one more question after Brandon.
Is the blight tax applicable to like absentee, like occupied landlords? And if not, is there a plan to maybe try and apply something similar to absentee landlords?
So the blight tax, like per state law, is not eligible for occupied housing. We are pursuing a kind of other work around enforcement on substandard housing through the Safe and Secure Housing Initiative, where really kind of going after whether it's code issues, crime issues, or whatever on the site, and working with those property owners to either improve their property or to look for an exit, right, if they're not in a position to do so. And that we've had a decent amount of success working with various properties around the city, mainly focused on older multifamily, where there's a lot of units that are in substandard condition. And in certain situations, the landlords are like, hey, we just need help, right? We need access to resources. They're not aware of, say, preservation fund program that Invest Atlanta has, let's say, right? And so we'll connect them with that and help them get access to those resources where they can rehab the property themselves. In other instances, the property owner's like, hey, we don't really, we're not trying to have this fight, we'd be happy to exit. And so they look for somebody else that comes in and takes it over, and then we'll rehab the property. So it really depends on that, but we've got a large initiative around that we've launched, and it's going particularly after not just absentee landlords, but property owners who are not taking care of their property that have tenants in them.
So maybe this should have been asked at the very beginning, but blight itself, can you give us a definition of what a blighted home is? Because if it's boarded up, it's definitely blighted. Some homes may just need a little love. What's the dividing line between blighted and something that just needs some fixing up?
Sure, I think that it is a spectrum, right, when we were talking about conditions on a property. For us, the blight tax is not the first measure and it's not the first point of contact. The first point of contact is often going to be some type of code violation or violent crime that happens at a property or otherwise. Blight it really is the roll-up of multiple factors, right, on a property. Bad conditions, property not being kept up, maybe a roof falling in, right? That plus illicit activity happening on the site start to put together a case where, hey, our traditional tools of just citing a property and then responding by fixing it are not working, right? And so I think that's where you get to the point of saying, hey, a blight tax, we need to incentivize a change of attitude or a change of ownership in this property, and that's when the blight tax comes in. But it really isn't a first order of business. You're pretty far down the road by the time you get to it.
Any more? Yes. I'm so sorry.
Yes, depends on who you cite, but sole proprietorship makes up at least 72% of the business market, provide jobs, that percentage. When you expand that to include emerging businesses and other small businesses like minority-owned business, black-owned business, women-owned businesses, you can easily get up to 80% of the jobs being provided to this economy. So how do you, but we know that the paperwork to qualify is not similar to a W-2 employee.
Right.
So what kind of consideration have you given to make sure that sole proprietors and other small businesses can qualify with these housing?
For rental housing in particular, or for both? Yeah, I think that's a good question. One thing, and Mandy's in the back at Self Help. I think that's a new CDFI to the Atlanta market, working with local like community credit unions and community development finance institutions. What does CDFI stand for? Anyway, we'll come back to that. Those types of non-traditional like banks and financing institutions play a really critical role sometimes in this, right? Especially if you're looking for a home loan or otherwise that can accept different forms of income. The other piece that we're working on, and we recently passed a resolution for if you're receiving public funding, whether you're getting money from, let's say, the Housing Authority or Invest Atlanta from the city, and you're renting out units, that you cannot discriminate based on source of income. Now, that was originally focused on discrimination around housing choice vouchers and like Section 8 vouchers, if you have one. But it also expands to what you're alluding to, which is non-traditional sources where you don't have a W-2 to prove your income. So if on properties that have public subsidy in them, we've been able to expand that out and say, hey, like source of income cannot be a reason to discriminate against someone for living on the property. Due to private contract laws and private property ownership laws in Georgia, we can't expand that to everybody, but if you're receiving money from the city, then we've been able to add that as a basic requirement. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you. We appreciate all the questions.
Nobody had a question for John, though. I don't know what happened.
I know. I was very happy about all that.
Like, I've been curious this whole time what he was doing on the computer in the news report.
I was probably emailing you about the Transform Westside Summit. But we actually did, on the positive side, just a week ago or so, we led a groundbreaking. Mayor Dickens, Councilman Byron Ames was there too, but it was blighted vacant land the Westside Future Fund had purchased. The kind of, for those that aren't as familiar, the way our model can work, we have some low-cost money. Rachel Carey is here, leads our real estate efforts and also kind of our underwriting and our financing. But we use our low-cost loan funds to buy land, and we can use about half of that low-cost loan fund to, build out. In this case, it was 24 units with blighted vacant land. We want to build high-quality housing. We want that housing to be designed in a way that works with the community. But then to ensure it can be affordable at various levels, that becomes critical. We appreciate our philanthropic partners that then about 40% of that cost structure becomes philanthropic. That allows us to charge cheaper rent. So in the case of the 646 Echo, the groundbreaking we just did a week ago, that it was 24 units. Arthur Blank, I see Tolton here today. The Arthur Blank Family Foundation was a donor, along with the James M. Cox Foundation. And I also see the folks here from Chick-fil-A. There was really Chick-fil-A that led the put together that impact fund that's enabled us to. We've been able to purchase up over 40 acres of vacant blighted property in English Avenue, Vine City. We're now hard at work now that we own the land. To Josh's point, and we were in the mayor's office, and they gave us this urging. We'd like to see y'all develop that as quickly as possible, but we're raising philanthropy because the philanthropy helps us, buy down rents and rental, but also very importantly, when we're looking to help homeowners come into homes, the philanthropy, along with city public assistance, helps us do down payment assistance. So then the philanthropy becomes just critical back to that affordability, because what we want to see happen with what would blighted, dangerous land become land that builds community. And for folks who are from the community, because another really important part about our model, and I know others too, is that we prioritize people who have a connection to the community to go in the housing first. And so in ways that Blight may have been keeping people out, we want to use that to bring people back. But we really appreciate our partnership with the city. And the mayor always says it's a group project, and it really is, because to tackle this on, all the different things that have to come together to make it work, from the funding stream to the execution stream to the working with the community. So we appreciate all the different parts that come together. And we also appreciate all the great work, Josh, you're leading with the mayor's team. I've been working around the city for a bit in my career in the city, and I have the amount of intensity that Mayor Dickens, and that intensity is expressed by putting people like you in place and building on such a team to really go after, to your point, some of this stuff has been going on for decades, and to really go at it hard. Really appreciate all that you're doing, our partnership with the Westside Future Fund. I know many other organizations here as well. So let's give Josh a big thank you.
That's the nicest thing John's ever said about me. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you heard it here publicly. And it sounds like he's going to hang around for a minute for even more questions. I'm going to leave quickly so no one can ask me a question. No, just kidding. But we're going to come up and wind up our Transform Summit with our drawings. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay. That was an awesome conversation. I really like when, I don't know who it was, someone said, a good quality of life is not just about the housing, it's about everything around it.
Right.
So it's just the
community that you're
foundation.
in.
Absolutely, yes it is. Is it time for the drawing?
Yes, we're ready for the drawing.
Okay. We are giving away a Home Depot gift card, first of all, and also a Goodwill of North Georgia gift card. I'm going to be reading the red winning ticket number, so don't be looking at the white ticket. The winning red ticket number is 3991542. 3991542. Oh, okay, come up right at the end, okay? Right at the end, okay? Thank you so much. Congratulations. All right, Goodwill of North Georgia gift card, winning white ticket number is 314-0261. 314-0261. 314-0261. No one? Okay, moving on. Okay. White ticket, winning number 314-0266. 31. Okay,
right.
cool. Come up at the end, okay? Congratulations. Okay.
All right, well, I think we'd love for you to sign up for Ride for the Westside, September 28th. And we'll be back. And we also want to thank, we told them this here, but let's also thank this summit was sponsored by the Arthur and Blank Family Foundation. So we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Falcons Friday, yay. And we hope you have a great weekend, and we'll be back here that third Friday in September for our Transform Westside Summit. So thanks for being here this morning.
Thank y'all. Good weekend.